show. Give me a sec. Well, I'm going to blame the festive season. How's that grab you? I'd forgotten to enable. I even have it written on the top of the monitor here. Set stream to auto start and stop. And I hadn't. I had to go back into all the settings, madly rush around like a chook with its head off and find out what was going on and rectify it. But all good now. I hope you've had a great week. I hope you've had a fantastic holiday break. If you're into celebrating Christmas, I hope that's gone well for you as well. But the main thing is we get out, or we can't really get out, but we can do things like Zoom to get together with family and friends. All right, today is the 27th of December, the day that will be remembered that Dave stuffed the start up by 5 minutes. All right, this week on the show, Derek's bird feeder build. So Derek has utilized some timber from a company that moved premises. And he's got what would have ordinarily been thrown out, and he's turned it into something that actually is working and has made a gift for a neighbour. Mitchell down wants to know how to put a DeWalt trimmer. He's got one of these. He wants to put this in a router table. There are some complications with it, but I'll show you how I've done it with mine. Viki's quilting table progress and in use, and isn't she a happy woman? And also a letter from the winner of the parallel guides and who is going to pay it forward. This is fantastic. I love getting information back like this. Also, remember to please send in images of projects that you're building, whether they're yours or your better half's, whether she's doing or he is doing a project. It's a little bit sexist of me, wasn't it? But not to worry, you know what I meant. All right. Let's start off with Derek's bird feeder. Now, Derek has sent me some information in, and we'll go to a picture of the actual feeder to start with, so you can see where we're going to. Morning, Tony. How are you? Yes, I know you got the same router, Mitchell. Okay, Derek sent some stuff in to me. Hi, Dave. Some months ago, the neighbours asked me if I could build them a birdhouse to feed all the birds that frequent our neighbourhood, and a big one at that. A couple of months ago, Jeff Herbig from Herbig Designs was moving shop and had a trailer full of wood he was giving away amongst what I picked up were some H4 treated pine sleepers and 4x2s that had the usual potato chip shape. I decided, let's go to this picture, I decided to cut these down and dimension them and use it to make the birdhouse. I'm hoping this will last until they are sick of the birds annoying their dog and making a mess. Time will tell. One design philosophy I had was not to use metal fasteners, as they would cause fairly quick deterioration. So most joints are doweled. I'll go to this next picture. Using bamboo skewers with some 6 and 8 millimeter dowels as well. I did use some stainless steel screws to attach. Oh, goodness gracious, I've got that. I thought I'd fixed everything up. The whole room went black there for a second. I'm back again. I did use some stainless steel screws to attach the aluminium ridge cap, as the angle provided elusive. We'll go to a picture there, and you can see he's got the stainless screws in the top. And he's just sent me some details about the different pictures. And we'll go back to the main picture. The only thing I had to buy was that capping. Everything else I had, so it proved a cheap build, except in time. The neighbours are very happy with their Christmas present. Regards, Derek. Now, if you've got something like that, send it in to me, because no matter how small or big or whatever the project is, it's something that you've done. And no one here is going to say, oh, I've got something better than that. None of the people that watch this show are like that. All of us love the fact that we all get in and have a go. And I think that Derek being able to transform that rubbish timber into that really nice looking birdhouse is fantastic. As time will tell, he said, we'll see if the neighbours get sick of the mess the birds are going to make everywhere. They're going to put it beside their front door, Derek, so all the bird droppings are right there. I reckon it's fantastic. All right, what do we got next? What do we got next? Let's have a look at Viki's... Oh, no. Before I do that, let's read Darcy's letter. Now, remember, Darcy Kennedy was the guy in Canada who won my TSO parallel guides, because TSO sent me some parallel guides, their new version. And I thought, you know, I don't need 2 sets. I'm going to forward on mine. So that's what I did. Now, shipping to Canada was not cheap for me, but I did it. And then what happened? Listen to this. Hello, Dave. Yes, the TSO guides arrived on the 23rd of December, much to my surprise. I sent them out on the 21st from Australia. That's pretty amazing around Christmas. I thought it would take much longer for them to get here, considering the holiday season and the amount of packages they handle this time of year. Thank you for running the contest, and in keeping with your passing it forward, I will be passing on my Craig AccuCut with extension and Bosch 6.5-inch cordless saw. I'll be passing on to a younger local woodworker who is just starting to set up a shop at his home. Why not? But I love this stuff. I upgraded from the Craig system to the TS55 about 8 months ago, and now someone else can get some use from the Craig. I'll be looking forward to seeing more of your informative videos on YouTube every Sunday morning. Thanks again. Darcy, look, I know this is traditionally around this time is the time where you go to, you buy yourself a gift, or someone gives you a gift and you upgrade. And your previous thing will be sitting there in the corner collecting dust. Why don't you do like Darcy has done and get in touch with someone locally, or even your local men's shed or whoever, and see if they can take advantage of what was your yesterday's favorite thing. Why not? You know, help some kids starting out. I think that's a fantastic thing. All right, what are we up to now? Look at what my daughter gave me for Christmas. Squeezy Vegemite. How cool is that? So I can open this up, stick it straight in the goal, and squeeze Vegemite straight in there. But the big thing about this stuff, and I'm not sponsored by whoever owns Vegemite. The big thing about this is that you don't get butter in it. Now, everyone knows that if you've got a bottle of Vegemite and you've got butter after buttering some bread or some toast, and you put the knife in and butter goes in there, that part is poison. You know that. So this is going to save a lot of Australian lives. There we go. I'm going to do a quick read down here. How do you email? In the description box below, the video description, my email and a whole lot of links and everything there. Have a look. Got a very nice bottle of red as a thank you. Good on you, Derek. Hamilton, thanks, David and Peter. Okay. John, get excited. Yes, Mike, you need this. You don't just want it, you need it. Where are we up to? 1:15. I'll leave this for the end. We're going to have a look at Viki's table. I don't know if Viki's watching at the moment. She might be in bed because she was playing with this machine all night. I did not know that, Dave. Yes, it's poison. Matthew, I'm fibbing. It's not poison, but you know, it's one of those things. I treat it as poison. All right, let's have a look to, we've gone past there. Table 4, drawing table 1. Okay, so this is a picture. You got a resin pressure pot for Christmas. That's a fantastic thing. Okay, so this is the new table that I've built for it. Now, I've been building this over the last couple of weeks on the show. I built the drawer cabinet first, and then I built the second cabinet, which is basically under the end of the machine that you can see at this end. I made a top that goes over the whole lot, and I lined the inside of the cutout for the machine with cherry, and I've lined the outside, well, I've put edges on both sides out of possibly 1.5 by 3/4 or 1.25 by 3/4. So metric, you're looking at 32 by 16, or 32 by 19, I should say, radiata pine, and clamped it all on. So let's have a look. The next part here is the drawing that I did that I had to make for the cutout. And there's the piece of cherry. And then we come down to a smiling face. Everyone complained that I was looking too serious. So what I did was, you are there, baby. That's the cutout that I did. Now, the cutout I should have really done on the CNC machine or made a template for the router to cut that out. I used the track saw and worked really well where the track saw cut, but right on the corners I had to use my Japanese saw just to do the last little thing. Once I'd done that, I had to build up sections more of cherry because there was a complicated area there. So you can see at near the bottom of the picture where I've built it up, and it's higher as well. But that didn't worry me. And then I've got the actual video of the machine cutting it out. Now, you may want to turn your sound down just a little bit because this video is going to run for about 2 or 3 minutes, and it's the CNC starting up. There we are. This is going to be what it's going to cut out. There it is on the bench waiting to go. I've got the compression cutter in there with the old Spectra coating. And we're going to look at all this stuff here. Cycle start and get in front of over here just in case. Away we go. Beautiful. Third pass and leaving tabs. Oh, the reverse pass. Okay, so this is leaving tabs and it's doing a reverse pass and taking up 0.1 of a millimeter as it does it. Now you might notice right at the end, for the third pass, the CNC went counterclockwise. Now what it was doing then was it was doing the final depth, but also it was going another 0.1 of a millimeter outwards. So it had 1, 2, 3, so there was 2 steps, like there'd be 2 step marks if I didn't do that final pass the direction it went. This made it a whole lot easier, and I better do this. I'd forgotten. I keep on going to remember to do this. Post. There we go. So it just makes it a whole lot easier for when I go in there to sand it and clean it all up. If I've got that final pass done, because believe it or not, the cutter in the CNC has a very, very small amount of flex in it. But it does flex as it's cutting, as it's pushing against the thing. All right, against the timber. Now, we're going to have a look at the next picture, which is after I'd cut it out on the CNC, I've got the pine trimmed down both sides and clamped up. And I didn't have enough clamps that were long enough. I did run out of clamps in this situation. So I used some 4x2 that had a slight bow in it, with the bow touching in the middle. And so as I pulled the clamps up tight towards the end of the piece of pine, that acted as a kind of a spring to pull the whole lot down nice and tight. Give me a second. What's the next one? An above view of the area once I'd put the top on for the table for Viki and put her machine in there. Now you notice directly under there's a window on the side, which is basically a computer screen for this machine. And below it, the cherry comes out almost touching at the bottom there. The reason that's there is to stop the machine moving around in the table at all. So there's nothing holding it down except for it just has a really nice fit all the way around with the cherry. And here we go. We're going to have a look at Viki taking us through the actual machine and doing some quilting. This runs for about 5 or 6 minutes. You can leave the sound up. There's not a worry.
Okay, so we have the ordinary sewing machine and overlocker set up over here temporarily at the moment and around the room. And here's Viki with her new machine. Pull back a little. And what are you doing there, honey?
I'm about to do the quilting on this quilt.
So you put it in a hoop?
Put it in a hoop.
Yep.
And then I lift the press it foot up.
Right.
And I'll attach it just there.
Okay.
And then I put the press it down. And then
Hold on, I'll come around here.
Okay. This is the quilting pattern that we're going to do.
Yep.
And then I press start.
Yep. Do you have to hold on to it and support it at all?
No, I do nothing.
Or is this table that your wonderful husband made support everything?
This table that my wonderful husband made is just perfect. The quilts slide across the
Okay,
back.
okay, that's enough. So here's the pattern.
Yeah.
If we come around, one of the things, this here is basically moving the material along the y-axis, or the x-axis I think in this situation, and the y-axis is being moved along down here, along this. And so it's busily doing all that, and we can see here where we're actually at. It's the same as when I'm watching Mach 4 on the big CNC down in the workshop. So basically this is our computer numeric control sewing machine. And how long do you reckon it'll take you to finish this one?
Oh, well, it tells me here, and this will be 2 minutes for this little patch of quilting.
Amazing. And so how big is that hoop? Is that
Let me think.
inches or metric? Doesn't worry.
Inches, I think it's 16 or 18 by 8, something like that.
Okay, the 8 that the pattern is allowed to do,
Yeah.
because this is around about 12 inches across.
Well, there you go.
Okay. All right. And
Then up here, that's who it's going to.
oh, you did some.
A little bit of
Wow, how
embroidery.
cool is that? So you only just started to do the embroidery.
Yep.
Just Nessie was trying to help
So
down
that's
there.
my first attempt. It's not great, but she gets the first quilt, so she has to put up with it.
Excellent. And I see you've been using the CXS or something to put these up, have you? Okay.
I'm a very happy girl. Very, very happy girl. I love my new sewing room.
Cool.
You should see the drawers. They're all
Hold
full.
on. We'll open this drawer up. So this is the big one where works in progress. That's a bit heavy, but not to worry. That's where everything that's on the go goes in there. So we'll shut that. And then around your side, what do we got?
You've got
That's
Drawer number 1.
wow. How cool is that?
Drawer number
Look at this.
2.
Machine's going back to point of origin.
Yep. Just
Love it.
as I finished.
Okay, drawer number 2.
Drawer
Yep.
2's got hoops and things. Drawer number 3. Let me see. This one. The middle ones aren't finished yet.
Okay.
What they've got in them.
Cool.
And the bottom drawer's just got clamps.
Excellent.
And a Baroness to help me.
So there we see it's all finished.
All finished, and then it tells you what to do. It says lift up that presser foot.
I'll come round.
Now take this off,
Yep.
and that little piece of quilting there is all done.
That's pretty amazing.
So I undo it from the...
So that's on the rayon.
It's 100% cotton
Yep.
with bamboo wadding.
Excellent.
So it's very...
And so what have you done there? You slid the hoop under it.
Just move the hoop up a bit.
Okay.
Put in the next section of
Yep.
quilting. Put the hoop back in. There's a little bit of chewing and throwing with this, and it's not square because I don't want it to be square. I want the circles to be a bit more random and overlapping in places.
And there's clamps under there you lock on.
And it's under there, and then we start again.
That's pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
And there's plenty of room on the table to support everything.
It is. I love this table. And this wonderful man that built it.
Right, there.
What a
Forget that.
genius he
Forget that.
was.
Forget that. We'll cut that. Okay. All done.
All done. Lock it in, and we'll go again.
And away she goes.
And away she goes.
Beautiful.
So this is the quilt further on where she's done it. This is for Emerald. This is for Emerald, who is doing Emerald's Adventures on YouTube. Their family is my daughter, my youngest daughter, and her family are doing a trip around Australia, in Tasmania at the moment, and they're having a fantastic time. Emerald is an 8-year-old girl who's doing YouTube and just putting it out there. Why not? And so there's named on there, and I reckon that is pretty cool. What do you think? Do you realize that now we are the CNC family? Because that sewing machine is computer numeric controlled. That's all there is to it. That's what CNC stands for. Brownie points built up. I sure do. Don't worry. She is very appreciative of it. Look, it's all about giving. Viki, she looks after me. She gives me so many things, and I return as well. You know, we try and focus on what the other person's interest is. I know it's hard to do with all this stuff around me, but I do. And if I can make something in here for Viki, I'm so happy to do it. It's one of those things I get a lot of pleasure out of making something for someone else, and if they, I just like to see the smile on their face. That's all. That's all I ask for. Okay. Right, now where are we up to? What I hadn't said was that room. I'll tell you a little story about that room. That is a walk-through wardrobe kind of thing. And we've moved things around and pulled all of the furniture out of there. And before we had a chance, or before I had a chance to do any cleaning up, basically like possibly paint the skirting boards, that's the baseboards, put some electrical power points around for her rather than have extension leads lying all over the place. And also having, what was the other thing I needed to do in there? There's lots to do in there. And once it's done, the place will look really, new lighting as well. So I'm going to create a whole lot of light in there so it's very, very bright for her so she can see everything with detail. Because as we get older, you know, the acuity in our vision isn't as good. Good lighting really does help. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. Now on to the next thing. Oh, you might have noticed those marks on Vicky's arms. They're healing up. That's the bloody dog. She'll tell you it's elsewise, something else. But Nessie's teeth, because she's now 8 months old, aren't like needles anymore. Like I'm sure you would have seen my arms were covered in horrible marks all over the place, and that's from the dog, you know, just latching on while you're not watching. Well, now what happens is the teeth are not a problem, but when she stands up, if you're sitting at having tea or lunch or dinner or whatever at the dining room table, and her little paws just make this part of your arm, and they are strong claws. Anyway, what's the score? I have no idea. All right, okay. Next thing we're going to do is have a talk about this guy here and how to mount it in a router table. Now, I've got to tell you, I built this bench here. That's why I'm down at this end this week. I built this bench here for this and also for a second router table. Now, my main router table has a normal size router in it, but you will notice with these things, the area there is too small, really, to even cover the insert properly. There's all your mount screws, 2, 3, 4, and it's just not going to do it. So all router tables have an insert this diameter and smaller. Like that's what they look like. So these are the rings that go in. Now, to get past that, what I've done is I mounted my trim base, not the plunge router base. I mounted the trim base on a piece of acrylic. And that was very easy to do. This stuff is around 10 millimeters thick, which is the standard thickness, or maybe 3/8 of an inch, is the standard thickness for router table plates. So what you do is you get a piece of acrylic. Polycarbonate will probably do it, but it might have a little bit more flex. Acrylic is stiffer. So you can get a piece of acrylic the same size as the opening in your router table. So the same size as the plate, which I think is 12 inches by 8 inches. Mine wasn't that size because they didn't want to put this in the router table. I made my own. So once you've done that, you can shape it all up. So I think this is a 1 inch diameter, so it's a 1/2 inch radius on all of the standard router tables. Pretty easy to do. You can do that by cutting it with a jigsaw or whatever saw, and then just sanding it on a disc sander just to get it perfect. Take it back, try it in, a bit more sanding, drop it back in. You could use Cole's system where he's got that little rocking plate that he's got in front of his disc sander. If you're not watching Cole with Gifkin's, pardon me, Gifkin's Dovetail, you're missing out on something. Cole's having a break for a couple of weeks, but he'll be back. So there we go. This is what, now 364, there you go. Whatever. So now, once you've got that plate made, then the trick is to be able to mount the trim base to your plate and then have the hole perfectly dead center. What you do is you mount the plate first. So you drill some holes that are going to give clearance for the Phillips head screws. I'll bring that up just a little bit closer. I might even just go to the other camera because it might be easier to see it there. So you've got the Phillips head screws that screw in to the standard base plate. I think I've got the other plate lying around, which is just a circular one for the trim base. And I took that off and made this for it. Once you've got those holes in and let them in, and then drill the hole, put the screws back in so it's holding together like that, then you get, pardon me, your plunge router, and take it out of this base. This is one of the best routers I've ever had. I love it. So once you've done that, you can put a 1/4 inch shank, 1/8 of an inch diameter router cutter in here. Tighten her up, then put it in, flick this open, just make sure we're facing the right direction. And let's slide that down. Here's your height adjust. Okay, and lock it. So I've got the cutter, will be way down in there. I turn it on, holding onto it. I haven't got this plugged in, but I just turn it on. And then I would release that. It can't come off because it's held by these clips here. Don't pull that off while that's happening, because that would be a mischief. And then you slowly, with this opened, do your plunge. Just by that. And you'll see that as you're doing that, the chuck is coming up and it would be carrying the cutter with it, and it would drill a hole right through the center perfectly. This adjustment is fantastic. You'll see here, it's got a 0. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then 1, which is 1/10 of a millimeter, 2/10 of a millimeter, 3/10 of a millimeter. You have fantastic adjustment with this. Don't use this base to try and make a trim router table, because you're not going to have the same control. This is going to give you brilliant control. Right, so once you've done that, you take it out, turn it off of course, take it out of the base, undo all these, take this over to a drill press, and you just mount that on the drill press. Get a Forstner bit, because we're going to try and replicate what we have here. You would get a Forstner bit, which is the correct diameter, to take a bush. And you might say, what's a bush? I'll show you. These things here are bushes, when I can get it out. There we go. So the bush is designed to guide your router whilst it's in freehand, or you can have it this way up and use it for all sorts of things while you're in a router table. That drops into there. So you need the diameter of that, and then you need the diameter of this. So first of all, do that diameter whilst this is mounted in a drill press. Down you go. Only this depth. Now that's around about 3 millimeters deep. This top section, the flange on the bush. You notice that I've made my clearance for it to go all the way. Then you create a second hole. So this is basically a counter bore. Then you put a Forstner bit in that's a smaller diameter, which is going to allow this threaded section of the bush to travel through. And then you can put that on the back. So when you've done it to this. So that now still allows you to use this out of the router, out of the table, as a router with a really nice large base on it. So it gives you a lot of really good control. The reason I like the acrylic as well is so I can see through it. Now this one has LED lights as well. There's an LED light there, and that lights up what you're working on. So you don't really need to go anything bigger than this diameter. The reason being, it's a trim router. It's not a heavy duty 3 1/4 horse machine. This is a small machine. Okay, so if you've already got this, you can do that. Now let me have a look here. Jeff, Rockler does offer a router plate for the DeWalt compact router. Have another option, but you will save some money making yourself. Yeah, good to know. So hopefully that's going to give you enough information to be able to do that yourself. But as I said, the main reason, I'll move that out of the way over there and switch cameras again. The main reason to not put that machine into a dirty big router table base plate is because these just aren't going to allow you to get a proper fixing with those four, wrong camera, with those 4 screws. Off to the hardware shop after this. So it's an easy way to do it. Now I'll show you it sitting in my machine here in this table. Give me a second, I'll move a couple of things. I should have a bit of a chew of Vegemite while I'm doing that, hey? All right, I'll move this camera back. And a couple of things out of the way over there. This table, let me see, I might go to the other camera for this, it might be easier. Let me have a look. Yeah, that'll work better. So underneath here, I have a heap of storage of screws and all sorts of things. And my Craig gear lives in there and all sorts of other things live over here. I'll tip that up a touch so you can see where we're at. I'll take this one out. Now it has a blast gate down there as well because it hooks up. Let me move that out of the way. Push that. That's out of the way now. Good. Okay, the whole unit is on wheels as well. So I can lift this up out of there. And then my router sits in here. This is my router table as well. I'll grab the other fitting. So here we have the plate that I put in. The router sits in here. I've got a couple of T-tracks here and also a clamp back here. And I'll show you how this all works. You'll notice also I've got some dowels on the side here. They're in the same position as on the side of the Craig Foreman. Back here, there's 2 Allen bolts that stick out. So I created a recess, you can see just here, for those to go into. And I thought that'd be a handy thing to have as a location pin and to hold it so it doesn't go anywhere. I'll put the router, the Craig Foreman down on the ground while I do this. Right, tip that, go back just a little further and up a bit higher. That looks all right. Okay, so when I slide this in, notice at the moment it's sitting on the top, it's not dropping. I push it backwards until it just drops. And also down here, I've got a little step supporting it. So as it goes in, that's it. Perfect. It's in line with everything here. Now I'll put the router in. And with these things, you know if it's in the right place. Whoop, this camera. This yellow thing always goes where the clamp is. So you slide it straight in until it goes click. Lock it. Drop this down inside. This is so much easier than trying to fit it to an ordinary router table. This is a great little system. It drops down into there. Done. I did have it screwed down as well, but I found the weight of the router and things sitting on top of it, it didn't really need it. And so I can adjust from down here. Let me bring that camera around here. Let's see if it's going to see what's happening down there. About there. So it's a matter of release the clamp, which is facing to the front. You can't see that. Give me a second. That's going to be a little bit better for you. So at the front, we've got the clamp. I've released that, and then I can now adjust by turning that ever so slowly. And I have this little indicator up the top here that lets me see exactly metric 0.1 of a millimeter for every little part of turn. It's fantastic. I love it. So that is that. I will now show you something up the top here. If I go up to there, that might work. In this table, I made this little thing. Now I've done videos on how to do all of this. This is a little router fence. I should have made it slightly bigger, and I did say that it was on wheels, so I can drag it forward a little. And then I'm going to drop these T-bolts in there. Got it. Got it. Didn't get that one. I'll rotate that around just a touch. Got it now. Bring it down to here. And then tighten that up. Ain't going anywhere. Lock that back into position. Show you from the front. This works great. Now, if I was to do it again, well, I still might do that. I'm going to make one longer. I'm going to make it maybe a foot longer, both sides. I can do that and it'll stay straight because it's a dirty big router. It's a not dirty big router tape. It's a dirty big right angle. It's a piece of angle. And the angle is very strong. Plywood on the back. This is possibly 6 ply, maybe 1/4 inch thick, hoop pine, I think that is. And this is a piece of Merbo that's finger jointed. Very, very strong. It's not going to go anywhere. I'll put the clamps in the same position for the T-track. But as I say, I'll make it go out possibly 1.2 meters long overall. All right, let's switch the cameras. There. Back to that one. Okay, Mitchell, I hope that answers your questions about how to do this kind of stuff. You could run the Gifkins jig on this dead easy. You know, it'd be a pleasure. What you can do is you can set up your cutter for the pins on one router and the cutter for the tails on another router. And you could go into mass production of dovetail boxes and you'd be pumping them out like sausages. Let me have a look. Dave, I was thinking of adding a trim router under the Stanton bench. You could do, but the only problem with that is that it's not tall enough. You need to have room, obviously, so you'd have to do something with the legs, or you'd have to sit it on a box that has a recess underneath it for you to be able to get in and access it. But that could work, David. Those top drawers originally have a handle. Is the 35mm hole better? Definitely, Derek, that's just what I was talking about. Okay, so Lost Wits. They did have handles, and I just thought I didn't want anything sticking out past. So it just works better. Also, this bench here is exactly the same height. Well, sorry, to the light. It's 2 millimeters lower in height than my outfeed table for the table saw, because that's what this is basically an extension of the outfeed table. So I can cut a full sheet of 8 foot by 4 foot melamine or plywood. It'll come out from the table saw and sit. It's not going to tip over or go anywhere. It works really well. Okay, I will read the rest of that. Dolphin Hates Hats. It's a funny name. And also, so then what I can also do with it is I can roll it to the other side of my standard router table. So then I've got 6 feet of outfeed from the router table instead of 2 feet. Well, actually, it extended out to even more than that. But then I just had a look down the workshop. When you build something, your mindset happens to freeze around that time when you built it. Because I just looked down there and realized I've got the assembly table down there now and it can't move. So this would not be able to go down the end. It's going to be destined to living here. But that's not a problem. This is a first world problem, isn't it? Anyway, that works really, really well. Very happy with that. That's what I need to build next, an outfeed table. It makes life so much easier and safer. I also had someone this morning ask me about the sheet goods docking station I built recently. Well, I rebuilt it. I had built one, and then I tricked it up and have all my sustainers living, all the boxes the power tools live in underneath. Done a really nice job with the track saw tracking across it. It's all dog-holed in the 96mm pattern, and it's European beech. The top, got that as a couple of slabs from Bunnings. Here's a heads up: if you're going to get that stuff, be aware that the edges roll off. Their sanding machines are a large, big kind of drum, and very, very heavy. So as the timber's going through in the middle, it's kind of going to be fine, but because the pressure's pushing down so hard, the edges roll. So I cut the outside laminates, so the outside strips of timber, cut them off. But 102 watching 35. Now, another thing I was going to have a look at. Remember last week Cole was talking about, was it last week or the week before, when he got his Mr. Squiggle board out, and he was talking about live cutting and quarter sawn, or live sawn and quarter sawn. I've got a couple of pictures, a couple of pieces of timber here, not pictures, but I'm going to show you a little trick. Now, this is a piece of jarrah that is live sawn. Now, it's not going to show terribly well there, but you can see the growth rings, the annual rings, are this way. This piece of bloodwood, which I cut, this is a tree I cut on my property, the rings are travelling this direction. So it would have been like that as the rings are travelling this way. And that's called quarter sawn. Now, during the week, or when I was making Vicky's table, what I did, oh, you're going to keep on doing some reno work, are you? Good on you, Cole. When I was working on Vicky's table, I just had some bits of 4x2. I'll grab a piece and I'll show you what I mean. So this isn't very old growth. You can tell by the tightness or the shallow radius of the rings. So this is live sawn. It would have been run through the saw that way. You can trick things up a little bit. It all depends on how you look at it. If I was to go like that, that's quarter sawn. So what I did was I ripped some pieces, and out of a live sawn, I got some quarter sawn. So the rings here are going this direction. Turn it sideways, and you'd swear that's quarter sawn. All depends on the time that you do your last cuts of that dimensional timber, and away you go. So that's how I did those edges on the actual top. Remember that unit was 2 cabinets, a drawer cabinet and basically a vanity cabinet, a cabinet that had a vanity panel in the center, which is also the bracing unit for the whole thing. It's all mounted also on felt cushions. You can get these things from a local hardware store. They're self-adhesive on the back. They're about 1/4 inch thick, and you can cut them up to whatever shape you want. Pop them all on the underside. When you put it down, on an air compressor portable, well, I don't know, there's some quiet ones out there, but I've got a big Stanley that runs the Craig pocket hole machine. I needed that one for that, and also when I was on the tools, I had one that had a similar kind of cubic feet a minute, I forget, or cubic feet capacity, whatever it was they measure. It's been a long time since I was getting into compressors and air guns, but on the tools I had a framing gun which used to shoot 90mm nails, and it was a great machine, but noisy. There are very quiet ones. I think John Woodfine has got a really nice quiet one. Chicago Air or something like that. I think Total Tools sell them in Australia. Mentioning stuff, if you want to buy stuff, remember there are links in the description box down the bottom. Carbotech is stuff where I get all my machines from. I am an employee there as well. I'm letting you know that. There's no secret about that. I do get a spotter's fee, but it costs you no more. Just letting you know. Basically, everything that I get from that, I bring back into the shop. I buy stuff for the shop, and also it helps me stay motivated to do the show. We have 2 quiet ones in our men's shed, got them from Total Tools. I think that's the one. and such like. Dave streams good content, so now I don't have to wait till the end to decide like or not. You're being very nice there, group chat. Excellent, excellent. Oh, look, it's 11:55. I'm going to read my list. I'm going to thank the patrons that are at a particular tier. If you want to become a patron, go to down the bottom again. There is a link there to Patreon, to my actual page, and it's a way of supporting what I do, because even I can't afford to buy food when I buy all these tools. Anyway, let me hook in here. Johannes Mohr, John Parra, Vincent Ngian, John Lafferty, Peter Woolworth, Brian Del Vecchio, Justin Bailey, Father Brett Guthrie, Mike Deam, Wayne Cargill, and John Lynch. Thank you very, very much. Chicago is the great machine. Yeah, that's the one. So I'm going to stop the show in a minute, and then we'll have our Patreon chat. So if you're one of my patrons, you can join me by going to my Patreon website. If you are already a member or one of my patrons, slide down through the posts. I think there's around about 5 or 6 posts down. You'll see it says Zoom meeting. That has the link to be able to click, and then you can join in. It runs for about half an hour. We talk about basically what happened in the show. We have a chat about what's happening in our own individual lives. It's a little bit more personal than just a straight out broadcast to absolutely everyone. And there you go. So thank you very much for watching. Look after yourselves. Be nice to each other. And I shall see you all next week. Don't forget to do the like.